I learned this one from my daughter, is that there's two kinds of people, believers and non-believers. And after Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, I think we're all aware that there are Christians in the world. And we're all aware that there are religious people in the world, believers. And then there are people in the world that are jaded, and it never really caught on with them that, oh, there's a God, he's more than just a pretend, imaginary thing that you talk to like an adult imaginary friend. And they have their trouble. And it's honest. And the Bible that I read is, the Bible's translated, and there's not a bad Bible out there. And the Bible's about truth, among other things. But it is our prime example of truth as human beings that is expressed to us in a means that we can't do on our own, which is amazing because Jesus was perfect. And with Jesus being perfect, you see that, okay, this is truth. And then we look at science, and it's like, well, science is just science. Science is truth, too. But let's say we look at, there are various forms of truth. But the truest truth that the human spirit can comprehend is the Bible. I believe that, and I've tested it, and I've seen it for myself that I know that. And you have believers and non-believers. And the non-believers think, well, the Bible's just make-believe. It's just a fairy tale for grown-ups to buy into. And just convince themselves that they're happy when they're not. And you see believers lie to themselves and go jump through all these hoops to try to make life what they want it to be. And you might see a non-believer adversely not ever tell themselves a lie and just accept existence for what it is. Which I like that. I like that better than denial. And I'm an existentialist. And I delight in existence. In that manner, as my being an existentialist. Existence is amazing, and it should be dwelled on, I think. But yeah, it's just two people in the world, lights on, lights off. And I got this concept from my daughter when I recognized that when she looks at people that are believers, it's like the lights are on, and it's time to be reverent. And she is reverent, as a little girl can be. And she uses her reverence muscles. And then when the lights are off, she doesn't care. It's time to play. These people don't care, their lights are off. And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was at the bar last night describing this to a woman, and we were making small talk like it was our job. And I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll introduce some depth into this dialogue. It didn't work because I said, yeah, believers and non-believers are two different people, and my daughter sees them as if the believers are lights on and non-believers are lights off. And I looked at her, and she's like, what? What? And then I looked at her like, I'm talking about my daughter. I'm not in the mood to be offended right now. And she's like, I didn't catch any of that. I don't know what you just said. And I could have, laughed with her, but my feelings were hurt. And so I just didn't laugh, and I just waited for her to talk because she didn't like my talking, so she can do the talking. And ultimately it's all right because she didn't mean any harm by it, and she was probably laughing because she was embarrassed, even though the inflection in her voice suggested that she was laughing at my expense. But maybe that was just a defense mechanism. Maybe it was just to save face. Things like that happen in life, though, and that's fine. And it wasn't bad. You know, it would have been bad if it was malicious. It wasn't malicious. But and you can have believers be malicious, and you can have non-believers be malicious, or you can have believers be good-natured, and you can have non-believers be good-natured. And lights off doesn't mean bad, and lights on doesn't mean good. But it's really racking my brain right now. It's really triggering me. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad moment. It felt bad, but it wasn't a bad moment. And my daughter's lesson in my life is lights on and lights off. And I was telling this woman with my lights off, and I think that's where I lost her. Because I think she thought, oh, it's a little Christian man. He's been a believer all his life. He'll be a little ball of cheer. And I just turned my lights off. And I told the story. And she lost it. And it might have been embarrassing for her to look at a person while they're talking, try to be engaged, and just fall out of it. And I wasn't being bad either. I wasn't being malicious. I turned my lights off because it was appropriate for the accountability of the moment to indicate an awareness as to what lights off really means around a little girl. And it was a very serious moment. And I was expressing this deep part of life at a bar with an older woman that's married that was just trying to have fun. And she lost me. She lost what I was saying. She couldn't pay attention anymore. She couldn't follow what I was saying. And it wasn't bad, but it was awkward. Because I just kind of left my lights off. I didn't turn them back on because she had hurt my feelings. And I have PTSD, so it was the appropriate time for me to leave my lights off and try to begin to process. This woman doesn't mean any disrespect to your daughter. There's no malicious intent here. Everything's fine. Breathe slowly. Slow your heart rate down. Calm down. And I did that. And it just got me to thinking about how, you know, you could be a believer but be a bad person. You could be a non-believer and be a good person. Good and bad exist. And if we think that believer means good and non-believer means bad, we're wrong. You know, my fraternity brothers, some of them were atheists. They were good guys. They were brothers. You know, they got that. They understood the concept of brother. And they were my brother. And it was good. And then I've been around believers that bully other people. And that is bad. You can't hide behind a Christian facade and be a bully. And be a good person. You're not a good person. You're a bad person. And I'm at peace with just being good and understanding that this woman didn't mean anything. And that's fine. You know, if I see her again, I'm not going to want to go up to her and talk to her. But if she comes up to me and talks to me, everything's water under the bridge. But good is good and bad is bad. And lights off, I don't think... I'll make some more videos about this and I'll get more into it. But I turned my lights off the other night and it was fine because I was a demonstration of accountability for darkness in my relationship with my daughter and the relevance of darkness within my parenting of my daughter. And it was an appropriate time for me to demonstrate accountability, and it wasn't bad. And so we have this moment where these two people were trying to engage, and it just fell short. And that might be awkward, but it's not bad. And I think that if we watch as much marketing as we do, where we're told how to think, and we watch as much bad television as we do, where the companies are just trying to make money, and there's not as much virtue or value or moral fiber in the substance of the program as, like, Andy Griffith's show, or like, these shows where morality holds a society together, and it's a demonstration of that morality. Now we have diversity. Diversity doesn't hold a society together. We're already the melting pot. We don't need to make all this fuss about diversity. And I think there's a problem. I think there's a problem in American culture, which is why there is a disconnect with me and this woman. This woman and I, myself, last night, there's a disconnect in American society, and the disconnect is money. And this money-mindedness, I think, causes our minds to drone, and we know it's there. We know sex sells. Money's the root of all evil. The man with the most money is the boss, is the winner, whatever. And before you die, have as much material things as you can. Sacrifice all your integrity, all your relationships for the money. Have 3 houses, 7 cars, and this is an enthusiasm that I've become aware of as a young adult, when I was in my 20s, and I'm 33 now, and I really think there's a reason that I was disconnected from this woman last night, and I think it has to do with American culture. I think it's a problem.